1, 2.
Can you hear you, colleagues?
Yes, Ika, I can hear you.
No.
If you can start with the National Anthem. Yeah, as soon as they start, we will rise. Because I don't know exactly when they are going to start. Let's rise. Thank you very much. Ms. Moncho, I would like it if by the end of this event, we can also play the AU anthem. Thank you very much. I will sit down, not out of disrespect, but out of the event that we are going to attend. First of all, let me greet all of you. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all those that have joined on the platform. This is part of a year-long, almost 2-year-long program that we have been having, but the one of Charlotte Maxeke, because it was the year that was chosen to honor Charlotte Maxeke. So today's program is part of a year-long program, and we really didn't want this year just to end as if we didn't really commemorate someone great this year. And that is why we invited everyone as the NCOP, part of Parliament, to be here for the final event of our year of Charlotte Maxeke. And also we've got a very nice present waiting for all of you at the end of this event. But let me start before I I do the opening remarks, I want to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Nkosazana Clarice Dlamini Zuma. She's joining us on the virtual platform. She's joining us on I can see you are getting excited, but she's joining us on the virtual platform. I did it deliberately because I know you will get excited. So also the chairperson of the NCOP, he will be joining us at 12:30. Speaker was supposed to join us, but you know, Speaker loved me so much. He just said yes when I say it's a program. And when she get to the office, people say, no, Speaker, you can really not be part of the program, which we understand because really it is, we want to, it's exciting what we are trying to achieve to bring the women to make sure that we do this commemoration. Also, I've already acknowledged Mama Nkosazana, the one that we also dearly love, our House chairpersons that is on the platform, the Chief Whip of the NCOP, and other members of Parliament that have joined this event. Now, before I continue, I haven't checked the notes that Sibulera wrote for me because you know how I am. I can speak a lot and then remember that, oh, they gave me But I deliberately put this today, this shawl or what you call it, scarf, because I was thinking of Professor Hlengiwe Mkhize. She was the convener of the Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa. And throughout these 2 years that we were busy with the Women's Charter Review, the Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa did a lot to make sure that the women of South Africa participate in that process. Prof was one of the people that supported us so much in our programs. And really, her untimely demise is something that I still cannot get over it. And I thought as part of today's event, we have to at least honor Prof. And if you ladies that is present here and those at home doesn't mind, can we just have one moment of silence and rise in honor of Prof Mkhize? Thank you, ladies, for the fact that I can see you are so receptive of this thing. May your dear soul and the soul of all the departed beloved rest in peace forever. Thank you. Amen. It is indeed a great privilege and an honor for me to be speaking about the Charlotte Maxeke lecture that we are having today. We want to honor her legacy, but also the legacy of other great women that contributed in advancing and deepening women's equality. We will need to focus our efforts on investing more in our human capital because it is playing a vital role in driving sustainable economic growth and boosting productivity. The latest research shows that by upskilling more women, creating a culture of equality, accelerating and leading the change, the country could unlock more resources to our GDP and create more jobs today by advancing gender parity in the workplace alone. Ladies and gentlemen, as we are here, we want to confirm that the emancipation of women remains a cardinal goal and an anchor for a free and democratic country. This is beyond rhetoric. We need to continue to engage in all forms of struggle and persuasion and name and eradicate all discriminatory practices that are still embedded in the socio-political and economic fabric of our society. Parliaments and legislators particularly have a very important role to play in ensuring that our agenda of gender equality is effectively advanced. We recently attended the 143rd IPU, that is the Interparliamentary Union Assembly. A report commissioned by the IPU has found that women continue to face various forms of violence and discrimination, even in the legislative sector. In fact, that report was about women parliamentarians and staff at legislators that are actually experiencing violence against themselves. These very often overt and sometimes subtle forms of discrimination often prevent parliaments from becoming platforms of activism and advancing gender equality. I want to emphasize the importance of ensuring that we keep the gender equality agenda at the top of our developmental agenda so as to accelerate equality. We must ensure that Parliament becomes the bulwark and vanguard of equality for the benefit of the millions of women who continue to suffer social, economic, and political exclusion, not only in South Africa, but across the globe in many free societies. I promise Seba that I won't speak about it, but I want to speak about it. We attended a parliamentary forum at the IPU where 12 people spoke and only one was a woman. I mean, and it is for the free world that we are speaking about. So that is why, and they say I shouldn't speak about this thing. The Secretary General of IPU was like, when I said it, but I decided the ex-lappie as ek ding praat met my henry. So that is my problem. So since we have recently adopted the reviewed Women's Charter for Effective Equality, we are now armed with a roadmap of clear strategic objectives. The women of South Africa have spoken, and they have made very clear demands about the social, political, and economic issues that must be prioritized for accelerated development. So in future, starting next year, we will have to put in place the appropriate systems to ensure implementation of the Charter, working together with all sectors of society to advance the gender equality agenda. Lastly, we are proposing, in honoring the legacy of Mama Charlotte Maxeke, that we intend to rename one of our committee rooms after this iconic leader. We will undertake the consultative process, starting with our speaker and the presiding officers, so that we can begin with the decolonization of Parliament itself. Because even this building of Parliament is not really showing the democratic dispensation. So we are proposing that our speaker, we are giving her the message that we are going to start with a consultative process to make sure that not only Charlotte Maxeke, but many of our heroes and heroines are being renamed in this, our seat of legislation. That is what we want to do. We want to make sure that we honor the legacy of our struggle heroes and heroines. I am not the one that is delivering the lecture. I just wanted to make some opening remarks, and I want to give over to Honorable Ngwenya to do some welcoming remarks. Honorable Ngwenya, as we are giving you now the honor to welcome everyone that is present here. Please unmute. Unmute, Mangwenya.
Thanks, Deputy Chair. Malibongwe.
Igama lamakhosi kasi.
Presiding officers of the Parliament, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you all to the annual lecture of Mama Charlotte Maxeke. This event must be used to reflect on how best to advance the goal of working together for equal opportunities and progress for all women. The principles of working together resemble the long-standing traditions of women's struggles. Honorable members, the role of Parliament in accelerating gender equity call for unity approach towards achieving gender equity. This is done in a manner that appreciated the historic contribution of women to the national democratic struggle. In this role of championing gender equity, Parliament to promote issue of women economic empowerment, which do not take place in vacuum. Honorable members, the struggle for gender equity and women empowerment is key to social transformation. Women empowerment is in accordance with the equity section of the Constitution of Republic. Honorable members, the right to equity does not only protect women, but it makes women empowerment a non-negotiable state obligation. Honorable members, with these few important words, I will to welcome you all in important annual lecture. I thank you, Chairperson. Ke a leboga, malibongwe.
Igama lamakhosikasi. Ngiyabonga mama. We are going to continue. And I must say, Honorable Dlamini Zuma, the women that is present here are so excited. They are really excited when they realize that you will be the one that will be doing today our keynote address and speaking about our heroine and our struggle icon. But before I give over to you, I also we did observe a moment of silence, but I also want us here and on the platform, whilst we are busy with this event, to remember and to have in mind the memories of our late Honorable Deputy Minister of International Affairs before Ibi Ibrahim, and also our late struggle icon and poet, as well as former High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Malindwe Mabuza. We are also in the same vein, remembering them when we are busy with this lecture. But we will give over to our keynote address, and I think we can just welcome her properly. The Honorable Dr. Nkosazana Clarice Dlamini Zuma.
Thank you very much. Let me greet all the presiding officers of Parliament, of course, the Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, the Mamu Maxeke family, and all the honorable members who are on this platform and who are in Parliament. Of course, it is with heavy hearts that we commemorate this icon because of the departure of our beloved Ibi, Comrade Ibrahim, and Comrade Lindiwe Mabuza, who were selfless servants of the people. So as we bid them farewell, of course, they are going to join our own struggle icon, Ume Charlotte Manye Maxeke. We can say without fear of contradiction that they will continue to inspire us because they walked in the footsteps of Mam Charlotte Maxeke with great humility, discipline, and dedication. We shall have to pick up the spears and stand on their shoulders as we continue in quest to rebuild our beloved country under the umbrella of unity, shared prosperity, and growth. Honorable members, utilizing the canvas of Mema Maxeke's life, this year we have managed to contribute to lifting from the shadows of history the names of women who have contributed to the struggle and the development of humanity. Never could we have imagined that we would recall the contribution of these gallant defenders of human rights, women and women's rights under the challenging conditions presented by COVID-19. Our world has been re-tempered by this global pandemic, such that the limited gains that we recorded in the 26 years since the world adopted the Beijing Platform of Action are being reversed Indeed, the pandemic has deepened pre-existing inequalities whilst exposing vulnerabilities in the political, social, cultural, and economic global systems. The neoliberal narrative with the trickle-down thesis has proven to be totally inadequate to respond to our situations. The global governance system has also been found wanting, with the dominant feature being inequality. This has been most visible when considering explicit and implicit vaccine nationalism. Afrophobia and Afro-pessimism are shown by the recent discovery of the Omicron variant, which was discovered by our brilliant scientists on the continent. This is the world in which the poorer and the low-income countries and individuals have been denied access to treatment and vaccination. For instance, whereas 56% of the world has been vaccinated, only 11% of Africans have been vaccinated. This is because 74% of the vaccines are in the hands of high and upper middle income countries. Additionally, the UN Women has observed that although COVID-19 has affected all aspects and spheres of life, from health to the economy, security to social protection, the impact of COVID-19 is exacerbated for women and girls simply by virtue of their sex. Also offers us an opportunity to write a new and inclusive future in which women occupy all areas of human endeavor. That Parliament chooses to remember Mama Maxeke serves as an inspiration on how best we can realize women's equality. For Mama Maxeke was a remarkable patriot. Not only was she the first Black South African woman to have a BSc degree, but she was ever conscious of the fact that the key to success and empowerment lies in education. Thus, not only did she pursue knowledge, but she ensured that the doors of learning are open. And she did that in action. She, in fact, contributed to the establishment in her lifetime. The first she established in the village of Ramakopa in Polokwane. Then it was Wilberforce Institute, which is still standing in Everton today. The third was a private school she established for King Sabata Dalinjebo at the Nyalaga farm, where the great place of Abatembu called Bumbane stands today. And when the participation in the King's Council, she made sure that women were represented, not just herself, but the issues of women were part and parcel of that King's Council. She saw light in the eyes of the people amid the apparent darkness that was prevalent at the time. She was the fortitude of the women. She set out the voice of women and the downtrodden, observing the negative consequences and constraints presented by the dominant migrant labor system and its effects on the village women She commented that, I quote, "Men leave their homes and go into the big towns like Johannesburg, where they get a glimpse of a life such as they had never dreamt of existed. The wife find themselves alone without her husband. She has apparently forgotten her existence. And she therefore makes her way and weary way to the town in search of him. The location superintendent, as those of our age will remember, informs her that she cannot rent accommodation unless she has a husband. Thus, she is driven to the first step on the downward path. For if she would have a roof to cover her children's head, a husband must be found. And so these poor women, forced by circumstances to consort with men in order to provide shelter for their families. And it's a big, elder womanhood to the first step on the downward path of sin and crime. Close quote. Thus, Mama Maxeke set for herself the mission to remove the economic and social constraints that African women confronted. It was in this spirit that she organized the she, a woman, a Black woman at that, was called to discuss the issue with the Prime Minister Louis Botha. Even in the serves and deserves a rightful place in the annals of our history and in the history of intellectual contribution. She was still the tempered Africa's oldest liberation movement, the African National Congress. Her work forms an integral part of our understanding and scholarship in gender, race, and class relations in South Africa and on the continent. She was the chief architect of our understanding of the intricate relationship between gender, race, and class. She was the personification of what the late President Marshall once passionate attitude. The liberation of women is a fundamental necessity for the revolution, a guarantee for its continuity, and a precondition for its victory. She was amongst the founders of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union. It was for these and other reasons that her example was celebrated by earlier Pan-Africanists. For instance, Professor D.T. Jabavu wrote this about her. I quote, "Throughout her life, she has been engaged in efforts of a patriotic character on
I'm very sorry for that, and I'm sure that Kevin, Ms. Moncho, can you check what is happening? I heard Ms. Munchu say that there is a yellow on the connectivity, which means it's a bit unstable. But I'm sure they will bring her back as soon as possible. Because we tried. There she's back. Thank you. Welcome back. Unmute. Unmute, Honorable Dlamini.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You can. Thank you. Oh, you can.
Okay, I'm sorry about my network. Throughout all her life, she has been engaged in efforts of a patriotic character on behalf of the aboriginal races of Africa. These efforts entailed Herculean tasks every time. Her social line has been redemption of our womanhood as well as humanity in general. The League of Bantu Women, which she was responsible for starting, was a wonderful movement and stirred the imagination of our people and unmistakably infused a widened public spirit among our women folk throughout South Africa, with results still traceable right to the present time. She was selfless in many ways and personifies values which should be carried by the democratic South Africa. Her selfless commitment to service to the people is how we should shape our institutions of governance and service delivery. Every day, we work and live in the service of our people, such that no legislation or public policy should be a product of this parliament if it is the interest of our people. This we must do without expectation of reward or material gain, just as Mama Maxeke did. It is the service that was central in her character. This character was matched up with her dedication to the cause of improving the status of women, which made her a pioneer not only of liberation movements, but also of the women's movement in Africa and the world. Her responsiveness to the needs of her community must remain a beacon for our democracy. For her, no need was too small or too overwhelming, whether it was the education, the hardships of past laws, or land dispossession, or spiritual or health needs. She stood there in defense of our people. Thus, we must take deliberate steps to invest in the girl child and women. In this regard, education and skills revolution are of critical importance. It was Dr. Nelson Mandela who said, I quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can be the head of the mine, that a child of a farm worker can become the president of a great nation." Close quote. Indeed, education is the single greatest equalizer. Therefore, we take this opportunity to applaud the efforts undertaken by our government to ensure improved access and gender parity in basic education, with an over 90% enrollment rate for girls. Despite the highest attendance for the girl child, many impediments remain, particularly for the African girl child, and more importantly, for the rural girl child. These include safety in the schools, as well as lack of adequate information, preparation, and support to manage menstruation in a healthy, safety, and dignified manner. In drawing lessons from the cultural rooting of Maxeke, it is abundantly clear to us that for our nation to prosper and the girl child to feel safe in her own home, school community, and nation, there is a need for the embracing of our culture and heritage. Our pre-colonial culture was very compassionate towards girls and women, of course, and children in particular. We know that even during times of war, women were not harmed, children were not harmed. Of course, Maxeke, amongst her many roles in society, also took up the role of probation and native welfare officer, putting this in context. In his seminal essay, Charlotte Maxeke, What is Educated African Girl Can Do, Dr. A.B. Kuma says this of her, and I quote, "She sees beyond the rough externalities of life because she is a kind, courteous, to the ignorant, and maybe crude at the well-trained, the same to high and low. There is not one amongst so down and so out and so debased that she will treat her as an outcast on any account," close quote. Indeed, she was the living mold of our Ubuntu culture. That culture is deeply rooted in the understanding of our interconnectedness and the interconnectedness of humanity. Because I am, because you are. You are, because I am. And these principles should be at the center of all our approaches and development initiatives. Hers was a straightforward African philosophy, which is but not internalized. She would say, "This work is not for yourself. Kill the spirit of self and do not live above your people, but live with them. And if you can rise, bring someone with you." Close quote. She understood that the inner and outer nucleus of a nation is the family and community. In this, her motherly instincts, she had a deep desire to help community and shape the minds of the young towards a positive path. That positive motherly path is one in which we must collectively address the loss of about 20% of school year for some girl children due to menstruation. Worse still, many drop out of school once they begin menstruating. We should therefore strengthen this management system to bring adequate information, preparation, and support to the girl child to manage this normal physiological function in a healthy, safety, and dignified manner. In this regard, Parliament has an important role to play. First, with regards with introducing zero tax in sanitary pads. And secondly, with regards to ensuring free access to sanitary pads to girls in schools. If we can make condoms free everywhere, why can't we make sanitary pads free for those who can't afford? Also, the more urban the area child lives in, the more likely that they would be in school. For instance, in that same age category, 66.3% of children in Gauteng are attending school in the preschool years, 0 to 6 years. By contrast, only 46% of children in KZN are attending school, are in school facilities at those ages. It is therefore no coincidence that the ANC in exile named most of the early childhood development centers in honor of Maxeke. The learning methods and infrastructure were amongst the best Africa could offer at the time. Thus, President O.R. Tambo in 1981, January 8th statement, directed the learners and teachers at the Mazimbu Charlotte Maxeke Early Childhood Center to carry out their responsibility in a manner befitting the pioneer role in which history has thrust them. Close quote. We must inspire to pick up on the aspirations and teaching methods of the Charlotte Maxeke Early Childhood Development Centers. What we do at the ECD level will determine the future of our country and the type of men and women who will constitute it. It is these first 8 years of life of a child that are critical for their emotional and cognitive development. Therefore, we must not only fix the quality of education, but we must also pay particular attention to the inequalities and iniquities inherent in the system. To correct this, we'll need a more comprehensive and integrated planning and implementation system. For far too long, rural children have been subjected to substandard infrastructure where there is no water or sanitation facilities, all because of the vertical and horizontal silos in government. Our rural residents have been accustomed to a life of no roads and bridges to enable the rural school transport system to operate. This is because of the suboptimal sequencing of the investment and infrastructure packages, which are in the 3 spheres of government. Our service delivery mode of government has also demobilized our communities such that they've become accustomed to being beneficiaries instead of also being activists in their own development. To address these challenges, because the president launched the district development model with 44 districts and 8 metros, by identifying the endowments, the comparative advantages of each of the districts, they can then be able to see what kind of economic industrial structure they can develop either in the district or the metro. This enables us to build complementary in the district economies. Our economy will never really reach its full potential unless in every district there is meaningful economic activity. By means of illustration, when we considered the economy of the pilot site of OR Tambo, we discovered that although this was the most populous district in the rural Eastern Cape, It was amongst the tourist districts. Its economy is driven by government, as it is the biggest employer and producer of social grants. This despite in the resource-rich and high tourism potential in the Eastern Seaboard. Quickly, we realized that we could not develop the economy of OR in isolation of its neighboring districts. Thus, in the consultation with local and traditional leaders of the area, we concluded that we should facilitate for complementary regional plans in the districts of OR Tambo, Alfred Nzo, Heri Kuala, and Ugu, because their economies are intrinsically linked and their people are very interconnected. And that if we developed all three of them, it will actually improve their situations better than if we were developing them individually. The result of our interaction in this development is that we should focus on agriculture, the resources that are there, mining, tourism. That area also has a very rich cultural and political heritage. And this can also be a big advantage. It's got a huge ocean, about 120 kilometers of coastline just in those 4 districts. So to drive this regional economy, we intend paying focused attention to the infrastructure, which includes the development of integrated transport, rail, road, sea, ICT, energy, including renewable energy, of course, water, human settlement, and we also want to look at making sure that the people there are not visitors in those cities, but they are part and parcel of those cities. This is in turn favors us with a possibility and potential to unearth new industrialists in areas previously seen as unbankable and unproductive. Just as Mama Maxeke did, we've seen light in the eyes of the people amid the prevailing darkness. Indeed, the undertaking of joint planning and pursuing one plan in each of the localities also provide us with valuable lessons. The first is that we must urgently address the infrastructure challenges confronted by particularly the rural districts. We ought to ensure and facilitate the wall-to-wall ICT. As you can see, I'm in a rural area and my ICT is not stable. And it's important, my network is not stable. It's important that we have broadband infrastructure across our country. The swift and efficient movement of our goods and people is critical lever for which our economy will grow. And in this regard, our rail infrastructure is very critical. The capacities in most of our municipalities to maintain and repair the infrastructure is a matter we're paying greater attention to. First, by ring-fencing funds so that we may meet the 8% target on maintaining and repairing budget, so that our infrastructure is maintained and repaired. Eventually, by also facilitating for sharing services and receiving training support from our partners, we will favor our municipalities with the necessary expertise. Our current cities are not what they should be. They are brimming at the seams. In some places, the sewage is not properly managed. And in part, it's because these cities are overwhelmed by people coming from rural areas, trying to find greener pastures in the cities. Instead of finding greener pastures, they swell the urban poor, the ranks of the urban poor. So it's important that we have development in all our districts so that people leave those districts out of choice, not out of desperation, as it's happening now. Honorable members, having explored some of the potential economic in the district, it is clear to us that South Africa does not have the requisite skills to drive the required economic growth. Despite this, we are sitting on a ticking time bomb where unemployment is above 75% on average, and the average employment exceeds 34%. Adding to this dire picture,
Can we ask the host officials, Kevin, what is happening? Can we be assisted with the minister's connectivity? Is she back?
well, colleagues, this is what I'm talking about, that rural areas are really not developed, and we should develop them. But let me say that I hope I'm being heard.
You are, Minister.
Oh, okay. Let me say that the real ticking time bomb is those kids, those young people who are neither in employment or in education or in training. And unless we do something about this pretty quickly, we will be in trouble. But we also have an acute shortage of skills in many areas, particularly in the STEM areas, with Skills Universe informing us that we have at least 500,000 vacancies, which require people with technical and vocational skills in this country. We have shortages in engineering. Instead of one engineer to 130 people in China, we have one engineer in 3,220 people. So we can see that this is a serious, and it's not only in one type of engineering, it's pretty much across the engineering spectrum, whether it's electric engineering, mechanical, metallurgy, you name it, production engineering, so energy engineering, all engineering, ICT, we have gross shortages. And it's not only engineers, but technologists. We are short of electricians, boiler makers, fitters, turners, carpenters, joiners, welders. So there is just a serious skills shortage in this country. And that is part of the reason why our economy isn't performing as it should. But Maxeke, right then, decided to study BSc science because she understood the importance of science. So we must not only ensure that our kids are doing engineering, maths, technology, engineering, but they are also in TVET colleges because we are, as I said, also short of artisans. And this is talking about South Africans in that picture is even worse. Even when we look at graduates studying masters and PhD, you can see also women are very few in those areas. So women are faced with harder choices when deciding whether to continue with their studies or not. For instance, young mothers must choose whether to take care of their children or to continue with their studies. This is a choice that young men tend not to have to make. The reasons for investing in girls' education are obvious. Educated girls and women mean healthier families, better educated families. More women in business at all levels lead to more profitable and more competitive companies. More women at all levels in public life means more peaceful, inclusive, and secure societies. It is therefore simple common sense, more especially as Maxeke has shown through her example. We need women in science. We need women in society. And women have unique skills that men don't always possess. Even in terms of just keeping the peace at home amongst the children, it's the women who do that. Over and above this, as is with the rest of society, the academic arena plays itself within a patriarchal world. Patriarchal belief systems constantly mean women must prove their worth for simple being in those institutions. Women must focus on producing goods, results, whilst contending with a patriarchal institution that discourages them from doing so. Overcoming these barriers will not simply be policy related, but requires that a concerted effort be made to change the patriarchal beliefs held in our society. For Maxeke and other great women of her caliber, such as Mamweni, Betha, Albertina Sulu, and many other activists for equality, was not a campaign, but a way of life. Thus, they all lived to serve and unite the people, irrespective of race, creed, gender, or religion. In our quest to build a non-racial and non-sexist South Africa, we must build on their legacies and those of Maxeke. Honorable members, we must also urgently bring down the barriers of today which prevent women from having secure livelihoods. These include matters relating to land tenure and access to land for women. Although they constitute most of farm hands, they only own 13% of the land. And we must remember that land is one of the most important assets because we do everything on land. Build your house on land, your company on land, your farm on land. You take off your aircraft on land. There's nothing that you can do without land. So land is very important, and it's very sad that we couldn't get. We have not been able to get that Section 25 amended in Parliament. The matter of land reform is critically important in meeting our aspirations. So more work needs to be done there in memory of Maxeke and others who fought so hard, like her, in this country. South Africa is an abundance of natural resources, not only land, forest, water. As I was saying, honorable members,
Yes, no, we understand the issue of connectivity, but you are audible now, ma'am.
okay,
You are.
we have all the resources to make South Africa a prosperous country and to build prosperous, sustainable, vibrant, connected, climate smart communities. We should move away from this paradox of Africa generally, where we have a rich Africa and poor Africans. The problem about us not beneficiating our resources is that when you send raw materials out, you're sending them out with high-end jobs that will then produce finished goods. You're also sending out revenue, because when those finished goods come back, they are probably 10 times what you sold the raw material for. So it's important that we move away from that. And also, if you don't beneficiate your resources, you become a price taker, not a price caller. So it's very important. But also connecting with Africa. Africa has now got the African continental free trade. But if we don't manufacture, if we don't beneficiate, we don't do agro-processing, we will not take full advantage of the Africa continental free trade. And I'm sure Maxeke and others, if they were here today, they would be ensuring that we do exactly that. So in their honor, we must deal with all these issues and deal with them urgently. But we can only deal with them if we work together collectively. But I can't end without referring to the fact that we are talking about all these things during the 16th day of activism against violence on women and children. Therefore, the society we aspire to should be one where GBVF is not tolerated at all. This will require that all stakeholders in society, religious institutions, traditional institutions, private institutions, public institutions, and individuals play their part to educate society against this. But what always bothers us is that we think, and I hope we're right, that it's a minority of men who do these things. But what bothers us is that the majority is quiet. And that's why this will never go away. Until those men who think it is wrong to violate a woman, to kill a woman, to rape a woman, until they stand up to be counted. We must hear that these men were chased out of the golf course, that they were chased out of the boardroom, that they were chased out of parliament, if they are there, that they are chased out of school, wherever they exist in our communities, that communities are standing up and other men are standing up to say, no, this will not continue in our communities. Until we do that, we'll always have these 16 days of activism. We'll have August month, and women will continue to be killed. Women will continue to be raped. And so, as OR said, the emancipation of women is not the responsibility of women alone. Men must stand up. Men must be counted, so that women can live in this country in peace, not in fear. They can live in this country with their heads high, confident, and playing their rightful place. We want them to be intellectuals. We want them to be scientists. We want them to be judges. We want them to be presidents. We want them to be everything. So during these 16 days, I just hope that every man can be heard taking action, because it's not that these men are not known. They are. Let's say enough is enough. And let me conclude by saying that we must pick up on the lessons of previous generations and the legacies left by these great women, especially the women. And I want to just close by quoting from a book written by Ambassador Lindiwe Mabuza. The book is entitled Tambole Nyoka. And I quote, "It should be our turn now. We shake the hand of the sculptor, and as we shake a more equal society where women are safe and can be found equally represented in every area of human endeavor and adventure." So thank you very much for honoring this great icon of our struggle, this great women activist, this great mother of our nation. And I hope that we can all emulate her. I thank you for your attention. Malibongwe.
Igama lamakhosikazi.
Igama lamakhosikazi. Oh, thank you very much, Mama Nkosazana. To all of you and the members on the Zoom platform, the issue of infrastructure, IT infrastructure, becomes so pronounced in the way that the sacrifice that she have made in spite of connectivity being an issue in our rural areas, but she actually persevered in making sure that we get the message. Whilst we are calling the chairperson as the respondent, this year at Parliament we had a program with the grandchildren of Mama Charlotte Maxeke. They have got the Charlotte Manye Maxeke Institute that is actually contributing a lot, because in Cape Town, they actually gifted books to the NPO that is working with the schools, making sure that schools are having libraries. And they work with a specific NPO here in Cape Town. And we also had Mayor Zubaida Jaffer, but that is our surprise for later. Let's leave it there. I was just mentioning because whilst it was the year of Charlotte Maxeke, we made sure that we understand better, particularly through the grandchildren and through the institute, this icon that we actually are not giving enough recognition to. So we really want to express now, there will be, our Chief Whip, Honorable Mohai, will do the vote of thanks, but we just want to appreciate this input by Mama Nkosazana Dlamini Suma. In saying that, we will now call on our chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Braambi Amos Masondo, to do as the respondent, just to respond or just to say a little bit more when we are honoring the enduring legacy of Mama Charlotte Manye Maxeke. Over to you, Chairperson.
Malibonga, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP. Greetings to everybody. Good afternoon. Program Director, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Lichisa Tsinodi, Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Sylvia Lucas, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Nosiviuma Pisangagula, hope she's here, Keynote Speaker, Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Honorable Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Honorable Members of Parliament. I heard mention of Ms. Zubaida Jaffer. Hope she's here. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Program Director, it is always an honor to reflect on the legacy of Mayor Charlotte Manye Maxeke, a giant of the struggle for our freedom, who also played a pioneering role in the struggle for the emancipation of women. She was indeed an extraordinary South African. Her contribution to the country has been felt by many for decades, of course, including myself in some small little way, as a learner or student of a product of the Wilberforce Institute in Everton, which Charlotte Maxeke established in 1908. The institute was modeled on an alma mater, the Wilberforce University in Ohio, United States, which was a historically Black institution of higher learning. For a time, Charlotte Maxeke's achievements were beyond remarkable for a time. Having benefited from the local missionary education system, she took advantage of the opportunity created by such exposure to go and study overseas. To cap it all, She graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in 1901, an extraordinary feat for any African at that time. Charlotte Maxeke was lucky to have had W.E.B. Du Bois as a teacher. Du Bois was an American and a Canadian sociologist, historian, civil rights activist, author, and a proponent of Pan-Africanism. His work is credited for having transformed the way that the lives of Black citizens were seen in American society. Upon her return to South Africa, Maxeke used her knowledge and influence to strengthen the bonds of solidarity among fellow Africans and with the people of African descent across the Atlantic. Amongst other things, she established institutions to empower people. She founded women's formations to take the struggle for women emancipation to another level. She led movements and campaigns against past laws, and she contributed in debates within liberation structures long before women were formally allowed as participants. A phenomenal woman. Maxeke's contribution in areas of education, faith, and politics is well known. She helped in a big way to direct the course of our nation. Through her inspiration and that of many other women and men of the struggle, South Africans were able to relentlessly pursue the achievement of freedom for all. As a consequence, in 1994, we witnessed the establishment of a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. We have made great strides since then, including developing the legislative framework and implementing programs to facilitate women's full participation in all social, economic, and political spheres. Today, beyond by the significant inputs made by Mayor Maxeke to this country, we pride ourselves in focusing our energies on ensuring a full and equal role for women in every aspect of our economy and society, and in unlocking the boundless energies and creativity of women that was suppressed by racism and discrimination. Program Director, the question that we ought to answer is how to honor the enduring legacy of this South African giant. One of the ways of honoring Charlotte Maxeke's legacy is to reflect and learn from her leadership. Many people who have sought to understand Maxeke have made use of many attributes to describe her. These include seeing her as a symbol of courage, compassion, selflessness, and self-motivation. This set of attributes completes the makeup of a genuine leader of all times. Maxeke empowered many people, especially those who were less fortunate than her. We can say without doubt that she truly embodied the spirit of Vuk'uzenzele. As they say, uzoyithola kanjani uhlele khona. She made it possible for others to take charge of their circumstances. This is what we need in our country today if we are to massively mobilize all our resources and efforts to fight poverty, unemployment, and inequality. To honor Charlotte Maxeke will require that we take action individually and collectively to liberate ourselves. It will also require that we stand up when our young girls are being murdered in a free society, as the minister has said. To stand up and to confront the growing phenomenon of gender-based violence. Program Director, we should stand up to change the current narrative of brutality against women, which is perpetrated by men, to one of caring. Historically, the late 19th and 20th centuries were extremely difficult times for a pioneering woman. Maxeke's ability to pioneer against the whirlwinds of this era should give us hope that our society will fully turn the corner and accord all women the respect they deserve. So we salute her for a firm foundation laid on the question of non-racialism, democracy, and justice. In conclusion, Chairperson, if we are to honor the legacy of Charlotte Maxeke, we must start by accepting that our freedom is not complete when women are not free. Research shows that poverty and food insecurity are central to women being vulnerable. Clearly, we must continue to prioritize the empowerment of women, a task pioneered by the likes and leaders like Maxeke and many others. So let's build on a foundation that has been laid and move the society in the direction that will ensure that the quality of life of our people improves for the better. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. We will now allow for 5 people to make inputs, but it will only be 4 because the 5th one will be Zubaida Jaffa. Because I just wanted to tell us a little bit of the surprise that we are having for everyone as an author of about 3 books, if I'm correct, about Mama Charlotte Maxeke. And let me now spoil the surprise. We are aiming to give to each and every person that are here present today a copy of that book. And we also want to make sure that we will also see how we will also give to each and every parliamentarian who doesn't have it yet a copy of that specific book. So I think Sibulela will assist us with the platform. But if any one of you here, we will just allow 4 people. So indicate now. Want to contribute something? If I've noted, the 2 will be here and 2 will be from the platform. If there is anyone, just to make an input, and then we will allow our author to say something, and then we will go to the vote of thanks. Each one of you that are leaving from Parliament here from E249, hopefully in future will be this Charlotte Maxeke room. Hopefully we are praying for that. We'll leave with a copy of that book, and we will make sure that we send for parliamentarians to their offices a copy of that book. So is there any people that are indicating? You may start. But introduce yourself, ne?
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. My name is Faith Tando Sitinana, all the way from Kailicha, ANC Youth League and Ambassadors of Change as an organization. My input is regarding the input that the minister has spoken about regarding the young black child, which I think part of celebrating the year of Mamu Charlotte Maxeke is that we need to look into how do we integrate or empower young black women who are staying in a township. Now, when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the program that relates within the women ministry, because that's where the problem is for us to integrate these young women, because the programs that are there, when we as the young community within the township that runs the small groups of arts and culture, traditions, sport, but what the language that the ministers, that the department speaks does not relate to us. So it's difficult for us to empower those young women, because when we want to be assisted, now I have a group, and then I have to register and do that. But at that point, when I want to be assisted to empower these young girls, the government on its own says, this is what we are looking for, which becomes a stumbling block for young black child to be empowered, because the requirements that our own government is putting in front for us to empower ourselves, it's a heavy load for us as a young black people, because we don't have so much that they are asking. They are not really meeting us halfway. So part of empowering young black child, let's look into those kind of programs that says, how about we empower these small groups, the small ones that these kids are going into? What is it that we can put? What is it that we can, how can we get inside the township so that the language that the government speaks, it speaks straight to the Maxeke legacy? Because now we speak of her legacy at the higher level. Where we come from, we're coming from the lower level, but if we can speak in the same level, that we will be able to empower young black child, because it's so difficult in the township. If we look into those criteria, I would definitely think that DBV will end. More of other things, unemployment, dropouts of young girls in schools, that will end if we look into the criteria of requirements when we ask for proposal as in national government, because that is a stumbling block for a young black child. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
My concern is the youth of our nation is a bit backwards, I think. We need to work on our youth. Thank you.
You didn't introduce yourself.
Excuse me, my name is Nasli Benito.
Yeah, thank you, Nasli. You've been here before, so but we take that point. The issue of the development of young people, it is more or less the same point, but it is also how do we assist them in terms of their development.
Maybe skills.
Yes, I will come back to you because we have identified other issues. Yes, I think Mama Nkosazana elaborated a lot about the issue of education and skills development. So I think it is a very important thing. But I think we will come back to that one. Let's just allow the two people that we have identified here. It is Rapotu and the platform. Tulamsindo, Rapotu on the platform.
Oh my gosh, sorry. I have unmuted. Thank you. Yes, I was saying I'm Tulamsindo Rapotu from Limpopo. I am the treasurer of ANC and I am also the coordinator of ANC Women's League. I share the sentiments about the development of youth, and because a lot has been said about it, I will then jump ship to the issue of real empowerment of women. The real empowerment of women for me would be something that should start with our mindset. We need to build a mind that says we are empowered, we are in charge, and we've got all the leadership traits that can turn the tides around in South Africa. We are the hope of the hopeless. We are the ones that can come up with bridges of hope and make sure that this country becomes what it was supposed to be. It can be that for 26 years, we are still struggling to have the chair, the main chair in the parliament being occupied by women. And it is upon us as women to begin to hold hands, come together, rise up and demand that chair so that we make this country what is supposed to be. I thank you.
Thank you, Tulamsindo. Mawini, I will take you later. Let me just continue. I think we can come back to you. Just so.
Good afternoon. I'm Soraya de Brains, the coordinator of the Bull Carp Ladies. I would like to thank on behalf of them that we are very honored and grateful to be here today, extending us the invitation. I can only say it's my first time here in Parliament and most of the ladies, but we enjoyed it tremendously. Not enjoying with the delicacies and stuff, but with the knowledge, the education of knowledge which you have presented to us. And I hope it not be with the last time that we'll be here. Just 2 points. I was very gloomed up and struggled with this information from our last speaker, Mama, is it Mama Pisa Ukulele? The one before that has spoken, Alcon.
Mama Nkosazana Dlamini
Yeah.
Zuma.
Which I've noted down that she says the struggle in abuse for women is going on too long and it's very seriously, and I fully agree with her, and I thank her for raising that, and I hope it won't be the last that we will hear from women that are icons, so that we can empower ourselves and also speaks for the future generations of our youth, because I think that is what they should have. They should know all about this, because they don't know anything. It's like the old people used to say, "Wij won't be terwijl nog klein is." It means like the small tree that you have. So you rather bend the small tree when it's still small. Don't wait when it's overgrown or whatever. If my Madam Chair can understand what I'm saying. So I thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts that we are here today, and that you gave us a chance, the input to say something. Also, the struggle, as you said earlier on the whole globe of the world, which we have our sisters and brothers struggling in Palestine, and that's also part of this. So I hope that we'll have more of this communication and discussion so that we can be part of it. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Bless you.
Thank you very much. The next person is Mpumi Nkosi on the platform. We are now going to the platform.
Amanda.
Wait.
Yes. Thank you so much, Honorable comrades. It's my first time speaking in this big meetings, and a short start from
Don't you want people to see your face on the TV? Open your video.
I tried. Okay, thank you. I tried, but it was closed. I'm on the streets because I'm on my way to work. I'm a shop steward in a shop floor. I'm from Joburg, a shop steward from Sepau. I'm very honored to be part of these meetings. I'm a member of COSATU Gender Coordinators. I mean committee, not coordinators, committee. And I'm also a deputy secretary in the Young Workers in Gauteng. I'm very pleased today to be part of this meeting. It's very honoring, and I'm very happy to have heard all the speeches and everything. As a person who's still young, or actually today is my birthday, as a person who's very young, at the age of 31, I feel like as the parliament, it's very nice that today I am here to speak on behalf of all the young people in South Africa, whereby we hear all the speeches, we hear everything that is happening, but we don't see the action. We need, as young women, we are being trained, we are being taken to committees, we are being taken to trainings and all that, but nothing is happening. We want to see actions. We want to see things happening. And how do you get hold of us? We are here. If we keep on getting the invites, we will get involved because we want to grow. That is what I can say. And we are very happy that we are in the minds of the old people, because you cannot just grow without learning from them. We are very happy. I was very happy to hear the speech from Umama Nkosazana Zuma when she was saying that we need to stand up and fight for our rights. We need to stand up and see when our young people are being killed, when our young women are being attacked, and we need to stand up together, even in the terms of education. We want to go there, we want to learn, we want to know, we want to learn how to do the struggle the right way, instead of going out there and looting and doing whatever that the wrong things that people are doing. Instead of us learning, we act inappropriately because we are not educated. But being on the downside, in the shop floor of the company as a shop steward, when you get into knowing, when you get into being educated, it's helping a lot. And I'm hoping this won't end as a discussion. It won't end as a lecture of Umama, but it will also take actions. And I'll be very happy to see things happening the way we are hoping as young people. Alibongwe.
Kamalama Kosikasi. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you,
Kamalama.
Young Lion. We are
Thank you.
encouraged by your involvement also as a young person. We are very, and our, as people, as long as you are not active, we will be here up until you take the baton from us. So next we will allow Mama Nomasonto Mazibuko of the Commission on Gender Equality.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. I am highly, highly inspired. My name is Nomasonto Mazibuko, founder and chairperson of the Albinism Society of South Africa, member of the Presidential Working Group and a gender commissioner in the Gauteng Commission for Gender Equality. This is so much inspiring this afternoon to hear that we are inspired by Umama Charlotte Maxeke. I truly feel that after speaking after Mpumi being in Gauteng together, we must be generational gap where we hand over. It's true, Mam Lucas, when you say you are going to be active as soon as the young people are ready to take the baton. We are holding it. I am truly inspired, and I feel we need to unite and go to the golf courses as young women and women to say, so-and-so is not doing the right thing. Let's speak up as women. We must not look away. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mama Nomasonto. This woman is very inspiring people. I want to tell you that she's one of the many inspiring women that I look up to. So, Mabatu Ramahoshi, we will allow, and then Mawini, you can say something, and then we go to Me Jaffa.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson, and all speakers that have spoken before me. I think I'm Mabatu Ramahoshi. I'm the advisor for the Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth, and Persons with Disability, but also on Generation Equality Forum, and latest on African Women Leadership Network. Chair, I think for me, the critical issue that I want to raise here is that the NCOP is always leading with regards to issues of women's empowerment and gender equality. And I take this platform as an opportunity to go back to the Generation Equality Forum, as the President has pledged South Africa and committed for us to have those 14 commitments that we need to have until 2030 to reach the gender equality by 2030. So we've got an opportunity now with local government and utilizing new mayors in the local communities to ensure that we have generation equality forums at that level. Because with GF, we're taking from adolescent to old age. Once we start empowering young people from the adolescent stage, we know that we are building a critical mass of leadership that will take over when they are 30, 35, because we would have empowered them, we would have supported them from school level as learner representative council, at university when they are taking positions of leadership. Now, if you look at GF, core conveners, whether it's at provincial level and national, it's both government and civil society organizations, and people are also leading there. With the latest formation of South Africa as part of the African Women Leadership Network, as a 26th country in the continent to form our lean, the leadership, the top 6 leadership we've got a mature person and young women. So whether from the president, deputy president, until to the SG. So if we start focusing there to say we are going to co-lead, co-create, whatever that we want to co-create, and ensuring that we've got young people who can stand on their own. And Chair, you're making a joke, but you're right that if there is a gap, older women will continue leading until we have young people who are leading. So let's bring them on board to co-lead and co-create as we're taking to 2030. Now, the young person in the House indicated that there is a disjuncture in how government supports young people who want to have programs. And I think if we start at local level, we go to province, there is no place called national. And until young people know the structures at community level, at province, where they can get programs to deal with issues that affect them. Young women are organized at local level to national. So young men must also organize not to empower young women, but to also empower young men. Because the challenges that we're having on gender-based violence is because young men are so disempowered, they've got toxic masculinity. So for them, they think that to lead, they must lead young people, and they're looking at young women. Young women are taking the baton. We're looking forward to young men taking the baton and engaging on issues that make them so violent. For South Africa to have such a violent society, young women cannot go anywhere without looking at their back and being a challenge. So I think this platform, Chair, if we can take it to first implement the Generation Equality Forum, and also to ensuring that we've got community structures from community level that will deal with gender-based violence and start challenging toxic masculinity, cultural practices that are harmful to children, we will as a country go to that 2030 where we're looking at a just and equal society. Thank you, Chair.
Wow. Thank you very much, Sis Mabatu. I think it is very important information that you've been sharing with us, and we are really appreciate the relationship that we are building with the Department of particularly women, the Women's Ministry. Mawini, do you still want to say something? Honorable Ngwenya? If Honorable Ngwenya is having connectivity problems, he says Zola, we understand. And Zola is not even in the rural areas, but she's also having a lot of problems with connectivity in Zola. We will now allow Me Zubaida Jaffer. We just want you to say something about the books you have been writing about Me Maxeke. The book that we will be distributing today is the one, Beauty of the Heart, the Life and Times of Charlotte Manye Maxeke. We will now allow our author, Ms. Zubaida Jaffer.
Thank you very, very much, Mem Sylvia. Thank you for honoring me, to allow me to join this platform. It is a delight to be part of listening to Mam Zuma, and also my friend Mr. Amos Masondo. We go back a very long way to the days of the UDF. And speaking about that, just to say that in the 70s and 80s, as a young person, I got to know the names of Lillian Mgoyi and Helen Joseph, Rahima Musa, but I never once heard the name of Charlotte Manye Maxeke. And one asked the question, but that's not a question for now. I just want to say that the first time that I had some sense of focused on her name was in 2012 when I arrived at the University of the Free State. And I could never have imagined that those 3 years that I worked on her story, and she and published this book in 2016, that would have led to all of this today. When I was researching her story, what was very, very difficult was the fact that she had lived so very many years ago, and it wasn't possible to find people who were still alive who could speak to her. With my other two books, Love in the Time of Treason and Our Generation, it was much simpler because it was contemporary, and I could write it by interviewing and doing the research and checking the facts carefully. I only found one person who was alive still, Gogo Hilda Siete in faraway Limpopo province, who was 106 years old, who told me about the day she had met Mum Charlotte and what a day it was for her. Confirmed for me what she said to me, and I write about it in the book, so I'm not going to tell the story now, but it confirmed for me that she saw Mum Charlotte as a figure comparable to Madiba, a very, very important figure at that time in everybody's lives. So then she was erased from history. And as I said, I'm so delighted that even though it was hard, I'm so delighted that I didn't give up and that I finally was able to publish the book in 2016. And then it's taken 5 years for the government and all of you together to name this the year of Charlotte Manya Maxeke. I could never have imagined that. And I must give recognition to the Charlotte Manya Maxeke Institute, Mr. Tulis Makanya especially, because after I wrote the book, we started to see, he approached me and we started discussions, and then slowly, the institute, the idea of the institute came and it was set up, and I think they've done absolutely magnificent work. I must say that what was fortunate for me and my daughter together, we decided last year to set up a company called Number 10 Publishers and take all my books back from the established publishers and release the books ourselves. She said to me, Mom, what's going to happen if you die now with COVID? Where will I start? And I realized my work is all over the show. And I've been speaking to other writers and creators and saying, the time is now, we must move into a different gear. We've been around for 26, 27 years, trying, learning, but now we must move into another gear. We must take ownership of our creative work, and we must make it profit for the benefit of our country and our people. That's a very, very important thing. We cannot no longer hand over our creative work to the old established publishing houses that really don't give us as writers any great credit. I want to say that that it has not been my experience, for those of you who raised the issues on the chat now, it's not been my experience that young people around the country are ignorant or are not excited and interested. The problem is that we seem to be stuck in a time warp, and we need to change the national narrative. We can no longer tell our children that their story starts in 1652 or their story starts in 1912. We've got to go far, way far back, 3,000 years ago, 75,000 years ago, when there were people staying here. I don't know where we're going to start. But I say this is very important work to get these stories, to get people to understand our stories, because a young woman a few weeks ago was the first president of the SRC at University of the Free State. She sent me a beautiful letter. And in that letter, she said that, she's read The Beauty of the Heart over and over. And she said to me that the only thing she regrets, that she didn't know Mum Charlotte when she was at high school and at university. She said it would have saved her a great deal of grief. And what she meant, and what I found all over, is that we have to deal often with our shame. We have to deal often with, that we're not good enough, And we don't have a sense of who we are, that we are great people with great voices out there. And we then can't find our feet. One of your speakers said earlier, and it's about our minds. It's about our minds. It is about skill, but it's also about what we believe. And when I think back, Comrade Masondo, do you remember we were very young? It's not about the youth. We were very young when we did all the crazy things that we did and all the work that we did. So often you need that young energy more. And we were very young, but we were inspired by the stories. We were inspired by the stories of courage of all these people. All of you, many of you are there. Nkosazana Zuma Dlamini, Duman Kosi, all of you were inspired by your stories. And that pushed us to fight to the bitter end to defeat apartheid. I feel we have to do whatever we can to get the story of Mam Charlotte out there, because it's a story that precedes union, the act of union and the launch of the ANC. It goes very far back, and we need to make sure that our children grow up with a new national narrative, a different narrative, so that they can be proud of who they are, they can be confident. And that is my wish for all of us, because it will contribute also to bringing down the levels of violence. And because at the core of that is the abuse and the constant, denigration of our people for so long. My ancestors were slaves. I mean, this thing has gone on for very, very long. And so we need to reclaim our story. We need to reclaim and we need to shape a new national narrative. And I'm very committed to that. But I hope that I can call on all of you to help, to encourage everybody to not only read my Charlotte story, but to study it. I have been talking to book clubs, to study groups around the country, and I think I'm very prepared to do that in the new year as well. And we need to go for it. We need to change. And I agree with, I don't remember her name now, but I agree with the young woman who spoke, that it's all about our minds. And in conclusion, just to say thank you very much. I hope I've kept to my 5 minutes and not exceeded that. And thank you very much thank you very much to Parliament, and especially Mum Sylvia Lucas and her team, who have been very, very helpful in securing the books from our publishing company. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Lest we forget, that is why we need to hear the stories of our icons. So we have come to the end of our program, and we will now ask Honorable Moai, the Chief Whip of the NCOP, to just do a word of thanks. There are so much that we can say about the inputs that have been done today. But Mama Winnie Ngwenya sent me a WhatsApp and say she loved the part where Mama Nkosazana have said that if we can give, I want you to see that it is really from her. If we can supply free condoms, why can't we supply free sanitary towels? It is a brilliant statement indeed, and from a great thinker. Thank you very much. I think that is one thing. I also wanted, before the Chief Whip start with a vote of thanks, when Mama Nkosazana spoke about the issue of vaccines, I think we've got a bit of bragging rights. In attending the IPU, there were few, what do they call it, resolutions that was proposed by Russia, by other countries. And we as the African continent decided we are not going to support any of that resolutions. We are going to put our own resolution, and that is about the discrimination on the issue of vaccines. When she raised it, I remember that thing. So we developed, as Africa, we developed that specific resolution to say that we want developed countries to give out us the patent and the right to manufacture vaccines in Africa, because we've got the capacity. It's just that, you know, there is patent rights and things like that and intellectual property. And that was the resolution. For the first time, because it's the second time that I'm going to IPU at the 143rd, but for the first time, the whole General Assembly united around a resolution that was sponsored by any bloc, and it was sponsored by the African bloc. And that was quite an achievement. I think we need to mention it here. So, Honorable Chief Whip, over to you to do the vote of thanks for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy
Whip
Chairperson.
is also the chairperson of the ANC caucus. Just want to mention it.
Let me thank the program director and the deputy chair of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Sylvia Lucas, who's also the lead organizer of this event, because together with her counterpart, Comrade and Deputy Speaker Lechesa, they are responsible for sectoral engagement of Parliament. However, we know that today's activity is largely the NCOP initiative to interact with the rest of the nation on this important lecture today. Also want to acknowledge the chairperson of the NCOP, Date Masondo, who has already given a very enriching input as a respondent. All honorable members who are logged in, be it ministers or deputy ministers that managed to join this occasion today. Our invited guest, obviously with rich involvement in the civil society, also in particular having carried struggles for liberation of women in our country with distinguished history of service to our people. You are most welcome. Comrades and friends, Ms. Zubeida, I must say upfront, we appreciate your input and thank you the most for sharing this gift of life, the book that we will enjoy. Thank you. Our presenter, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. This brings us to the end of this historic occasion of the lecture about one of our own, the late Charlotte Maxeke, whose legacy continues to inspire us, men and women alike. We must thank the main speaker this afternoon for illuminating account of the life and times of the late Comrade Charlotte Maxeke. The presentation was very profound, insightful, and indeed inspiring, especially as it relates to the legacy of Comrade Charlotte Maxeke, to the socio-economic conditions of women and the persistence of patriarchy, which continues to inflict untold suffering to women of our country. As Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma puts it, the most fitting way to honor the legacy of Mama Charlotte Maxeke and other women who came after her is to intensify our struggle for gender equality. It is therefore instructive for all of us to internalize this input. We should do so also together by reading and reread all the work as it was indicated, written to celebrate the legacy of Mama Charlotte Maxeke as we conclude this year. We are grateful for all the participants for unselfishly sharing with us their expectations, their thoughts, what concerns them, what frustrates them as matters that we should take into account as Parliament to remain a true tribune of the people. The National Council of Provinces will do everything possible to ensure that it acts in partnership with the rest of the people of South Africa to ensure that women's emancipation remains not just something in the distant future, but something that generations of today have to accomplish with distinction. We thank you, Re leboha. Thanks, Deputy Chair.
Baie dankie. Baie dankie. Yeah, thank you very much. I think that brings us really to the end of when we were planning this event. We just said to ourselves, whatever, even if it's 10 people, we will continue. But through the grace of God, we have more than 100 people just on the platform and inside here. And through the different media platforms that Parliament is using, we don't have the tally now, but I can assure you many, many more people have been able to participate and to see you today participating in this event. I sent my friend a WhatsApp and say, are you actually watching? She took a photo when you were speaking. She sent me the photo to show me that they are watching indeed. So with that said and done, unfortunately you took your lunch before, before we started. Okay, so there will still be something. I think it's fruit. Thank you very much to all on the platform, particularly there was a vote of thanks, but I'm so touched by your approach today, Mam Nkosazana, to this lecture. It was so inspiring, but also enlightening. I'm really touched, but also the chairperson, personally from my side, I usually just do something, but you never fail to support me throughout this year. Thank you very much. And to the team, it's the team of Parliament. Sebu usually take my thoughts and she say, no, I'm taking it to the team. I don't know how we can thank them. For 2 years, solid, we've been busy with our program and they've always been there. I don't know, is it Kevin Christians or what is Kevin's surname? Kevin Christians, because the name is so in my mind, because I always hear about Kevin. Kevin, we are in Spain. Kevin, can you get books for us from that books of Ma'am Zubeida? Kevin, I always hear that name. But today, you've got an opportunity to see who Kevin Christians is. Kevin, I think you must stand up so that people can see you. Thanks for the commitment, but also to the rest of the team, particularly also our communications team. And I will say under the leadership of Munchu, you saw her here when she was busy. There is nothing that we start to plan in the name of Parliament that they are not taking very serious and making sure that our people get that message. So for that, we must express our appreciation. I don't know, I don't want to say thank you to Sibulelo because sometimes when you say thank you a lot to people, they become lazy. They don't want to move all the time. But sometimes, when there is obstacles in your way, you become a bit despondent. But because I don't want Sebo to become despondent, because she's always saying, ma'am, we can continue, ne? We can continue, ne? And I don't want her to become despondent. And that is why sometimes, you heard we are old people. I'm an old person. I'm an elderly person. So sometimes when I wake up, I've got different pains that I must listen to. And with all the pains that I'm listening to, I sometimes don't want to continue when I feel there is too many obstacles. But I motivate myself because the young people or the people around us, the team, they are very motivational. And I think I don't expect from anyone else than myself that no, how the backroom operation is going on, to express my appreciation to them. To Chief Whip, to all of you, Chairperson, everyone that really gave us so much support throughout the year. I really want to. I'm laughing because my friend says she can't believe that I told you what she did. So I really want to express our appreciation. And thank you for the women, particularly. Let me tell you, when I came to Parliament, they told me about the Women's Parliament. And they said, but now it's 2019, we're so busy, we don't have time. How are we going to arrange? There she is. How are we going to arrange the Women's Parliament? I said to her, there is no women's event that ever failed. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. So as you are leaving, Sebudem will, I will stand there and I will give to each and every one of you a copy of the book. Thank you very much. And thank you to those on the platform. You must come to Parliament.
How
if
are
you
we
want
going to get the book?
Those that want to have books must come to Parliament.
Je kan niet zo zijn, nee. Chairperson.
Doe maar, baby, je zal je boek vanavond krijgen.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Albongwe. Bye.
Igama lamakhosikazi.
Balibongwe.
Igama lamakhosikazi.
Balibongwe.
Igama lamakhosikazi.
Igama lamakhosikazi.
Balibongwe.
Igama lamakhosikazi.
I don't know.
Honorable Nomsa, how are you?
I lose the missing.